It is wonderful to be connecting with you all today in all parts of the world. I have a phenomenal panel that is lined up. I'm going to do my best to do their names justice, but then I'm going to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves and to give you some insight into who they are, their expertise, and why they have a voice in this conversation. So I'm going to start with you, João Bocas. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, I'll look forward to learning more about who you are.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Linda. And nice to be here and nice to be amongst the other experts. My name is João Bocas. I'm a keynote speaker, also an entrepreneur, and I'm the CEO of Digital Solutum, but my interest is actually in healthcare and wearables. So I'm very interested in the conversation about health and improving people's behavior. And smart cities is now a big agenda with that regards. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you for being with us. Oliver, you have the easiest name for me to pronounce, so it's except for your last name. I'm afraid to really challenge it, so I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
That's absolutely fine. I think first names are a little bit better anyway. So my name is Oliver Grünvogel for everybody who wants to try. I'm Chief of Staff at the InnoPlexus Group, and we are also very interested and active in the area of digital health. Originally, once upon a time, a digital drug discovery and development company, and are now joining the links into the smart cities domain via healthcare and other tracks. So really looking forward, and thanks for having us.
Pleasure to have you with us. Jaewon and Peter, a nice, fun, easy name for me to pronounce, Chun. It's a pleasure to have you with us today as well, and look forward to learning more about what you see with that beautiful telescope of yours, and how the vision that you have for smart cities is enhanced by that.
Well, the telescope, actually, the last time I used that was 2 months ago. Recently, I never used that. But anyway, it's kind of fun to, using the telescope, because there's no way I can do outside of the city. I'm actually based in New York City. It's another lockdown. By the way, my name is Jaewon Peter Chun. I'm the president of World Smart Cities Forum, which is actually London-based nonprofit organization to sharing the insights and the master plan initiatives with the leadership of the city government or central government. Currently, we're working with the 7 different projects around the world, including Vietnam and Ukraine, and also the London and New York City here. Personally, I was the master planner for National Smart City Initiatives in South Korea, which was about $5 billion. And our mission, the major mission on that is PPP based, also the innovation based smart city initiatives, so that we can actually give the next level of the definition of smart city based on the people, like people-centric city we are actually designing right now. So it's really, I'm really having fun today to share my insight and experience with the audience and also all the panelists today. And thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking forward to more of your insights, and I really enjoyed my chat with you previously. It's amazing the different projects that you have helped spearhead, and looking forward to delving into that a little bit more deeply as well. Our last panelist today is Xiong, and he'll probably pronounce his name differently, so my apologies on that. But absolutely amazing work that you have done, and the time frame that you've been engaged in smart cities. I have a lot of respect for I'm just thinking about everything you told me about the University of Surrey and the work that you guys have achieved there, and even a satellite, right? I think we can have Peter looking up at that satellite with with his telescope there. So now looking forward to having you introduce yourself and share with the community your insights into smart cities as well.
Thank you, Linda. So it's my pleasure to be in the panel. So of course, my main role is I'm a professor in Surrey University Business School. I'm a professor of business analytics. That's my academic role in the university. I also took the role as Associate Dean International. So I help the university, the 3 faculties, 20 schools and departments for the international collaborations. So I hope that many of our technologies in our university is very relevant to smart cities. For example, we are the largest 5G research center in Europe. Now we launched our 6G center. Yeah, so our research in 6G and 5G is the #1 in UK. And also we have the #1 first ranked the Artificial Intelligence Center, so Center for Computer Vision. So it's one of the very early center in AI, so across the country. And we're also, of course, famous for the Surrey satellite, the Galileo satellite system. All the small satellites are built from Surrey, so only Surrey can develop a small satellite. As there are many things like blockchain, so these technologies, we recently get £10 million from the government to develop blockchain solutions. And that's my university capacity. I'm also non-executive director or chairman of almost 15 companies. So most of them are multi-million or some of them multi-billion companies. So, for example, involved in several companies, I invest about, my team invest about 170 companies only last year. Many of them are relevant to smart cities. And this year, because of the impact of COVID-19, so we still managed to invest about 70 companies. So we are very active in this area. We helped many technology to grow from early idea to a very established business. So my own company, blockchain company called PXB, where I'm the chief scientist. So we have 10,000 daily active users, currently ranked #2 in the world for all the blockchain application platforms. Yeah, that's some of the introductions. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's just scratching the surface, I'm sure. I feel honored to be with you guys today, and it is the biggest challenge was, which questions to bring to this panel, because their expertise is phenomenal. And one of the things that I think is an interesting perspective builder for people globally is to really understand what the differences are in the implementation of smart cities based on where their geographic location is, as well as potential cultural differences. And so I would love for all of you guys to weigh into that question. And what do you see as the differences and maybe potentially the challenges that exist in different geographic locations? Oliver, you're nodding your head, so let's start with you.
Well, so we are based out of Germany, and that's also where some of the experiences I could share actually are coming from. So I think Germany, we are known to be a little bit bureaucratic. If there's one more stamp you can put on any project, we will definitely find a way to put it on there. What that comes out to is often a very long planning process in our experience, long talks, also long lead times to actually get something off the ground, but often very comprehensive projects that are then very comprehensively implemented as well. Some examples here are, for example, just talking to mayors, talking to the different regional government affiliations will take a lot of time before there's actually any funding. Every little I and T will be crossed, especially on a, let's say, budgeting, financial, and liability side. That's why a lot of innovation sometimes takes a little bit longer, but comes into full force only after quite some time. And also, what we are currently mostly focusing on here is a energy savings or environmental focus, not necessarily a innovation-driven approach in some of the places that we have seen. It's a lot about getting the business case right, getting the cases right, getting the benefits to the citizens right. And there has to be a lot of proven examples that have worked before, which is making it sometimes a little bit tougher when you're just starting out and trying to get your first projects we can actually help with. However, what we also see is that there is a huge push for innovation. It is more or less mandated. It's communicated by the government. They want to bring smart cities to the front. Smart cities and smart government here often go hand in hand. And what it starts then getting a large a portfolio of projects that, for example, the federal as well as the regional as well as the municipal governments will be running, which sometimes is not that coordinated. There's a push to go into it and everybody's trying it. And a lot of places are trying the same things, but are not very learning from each other. And what's currently happening here also is a sense of network building, that the municipalities or the regional governments that are a little bit ahead, that have been investing early into innovation, are now coming together to see what they can actually learn from one another. And this is actually a very nice progress that we've been seeing. And we are very happy and are hoping that this will continue a little bit into the future. And I'm also very curious to know how that would compare to some of the other geographies that we have represented in this panel.
Yeah, that's tremendous insight. The Germans have done a lot of things very, very well. I enjoyed my travels over there. You could count on the trains being on time. So that planning does pay out beautifully. So I thank you for sharing that, though. I hadn't processed how that would negatively impact potentially in the slow time, to market with some innovations. But when it does get to market, the positive outcome of that planning is there. So, yeah, fantastic. Joe?
Yeah, well, in terms of implementation, I might not have a lot of experience like the other experts on the ground, but my informed guess is that it much depends on infrastructure, because I believe, for example, the technologies are maturing really, really well. But if we consider certain territories or even certain localities, particular areas, they might not be ready in terms of infrastructure. So I'm keen to learn from other experts what are the challenges on the ground, because it's so complex to actually do implementation of technology on several aspects. And then we add much more complexity because we're talking about human beings. So we have human behavior, technology, and of course funds, governments. So it's a multifaceted, challenging environment. So I'm keen to learn from others what they find in terms of challenges.
So you're approaching it from a wearables perspective, right? How do the cultural differences that you've been aware of have an impact on something like including wearables in a smart city? I'm curious as to the wearables connection link in relation to how you've seen it implemented in different locations.
Yeah, so in here we have, for example, the more, let's say, more developed countries, that about 25% of the adult population have a wearable now. And more interesting is that 1 in 2 adults intend to have a wearable in the next 6 months. So actually we starting to cross the line to kind of mass adoption. And I've been saying that since 2016. This is the year of wearables, 2016, 2017, the last 5 years. But truly believe that 2021 would be really the year of wearables in terms of the consumer market, but also into the B2B space. And in here is a bit of a combination. And if we talk about smart cities, we have to consider these two very different dynamics. I mean, who we selling the wearables to the governments, to the organizations, or we encourage people to have already their own device, which we see in the workplace and many other industries, and then kind of try to bring them on board with some incentives, and because you already have a wearable in the first place. So there are so many things, challenges to consider. It's very interesting, very complex. I think also we don't have like a backbone to learn from because it's all new. So it's even more challenging, but it's also exciting.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing your perspective. Gentlemen, who would like to weigh in here?
Okay, So I think I've been working on the smart city involvement myself in the last 7 years in different countries, border by borders. I think that there are three distinctive the definitions on smart city governance structure, I think. Mostly European countries, including Germany. I really admire the great, marvelous work in Germany, by the way. I was in Berlin. I was really overwhelmed by the uprising ecosystem, innovation ecosystem there, and also the governmental approach into change the cities are much more like sustainable and resilient. So it was amazing. The first time I was in Berlin was actually back in 1991, when the world actually just collapsed, and it was a big change. My last visit, that was about 5 years ago, as I was actually with myself and bringing a lot of the innovations from Berlin, I think. So European nations, they much more like focusing on urban regeneration, so which is trying to making some meaningful changes into the city, and they way more attention on the people, like the activities by the people and community, and also the making the much more efficiency among the communities anyway, and economically as well. And Asian smart city is a little bit different because they are much more focusing on the greenfield projects, which is actually trying to make the cities or economy something much powerful. So most of the Chinese smart city initiatives, Indian initiatives, South Korean initiatives are much more like to development. And it's not about the digital transformation. They're trying to input lots of resources, so financial resources, and the human powers in developing a new city with the residential complexes. So from my experience, I think the PPP based one is ideal. A lot of people talking about PPP is really tricky, but I think eventually PPP is the only goal we actually have to pursue it. Because the smart city initiatives actually I'm working on right now in Ukraine and in Vietnam, for example, these two countries have common issues, because in terms of the very strong leadership, and they actually go through all the the conversation processes, and also the internal process are very simple. They simplify the process of the discussion. But from my experience in South Korea, I actually just experienced it badly regarding the silo effect. So lots of silos there, and all the voices from the government, the department, and even the private sectors, and they all different. So it's really not easy to resolve all those kind of concerns and issues and feedbacks, and so it takes a longer time. So the fast decision-making process is pretty much required, and then I think that we can raise the fund from the private sectors, and also attract the government budgets and so on. So PPP means it's kind of a little bit mixture of the greenfield and the brownfield. So in Hanoi, the reason why I actually chose Hanoi as one of the pilot project for smart cities in Vietnam, there are actually two purposes. One is to regenerate the existing city. There's not enough the sewage systems or water suppliers, and even the waste management systems. And the Hanoi is actually metropolitan cities, by the way, has the more than 8.5 million populations, and still you can see lots of bikes around the city. More than 4 or 5 million bikes and motorbikes are running around the city, but mostly they run by the gasoline and diesel, which is actually one of the major factors of affecting the air pollutions. And also construction sites are another one too. So the one of the major KPIs for Hanoi Smart City is to reduce CO2 emission and making the city much more cleaner. Back to those years, they actually share the blue skies. So that's why one of the biggest mission in mobility and will be the high telecommunication network as an infrastructure, and energy platforms and management waste management systems all together. We're trying to reduce the existing model of the mobilities into the electricity-based one, and which a lot of infrastructures, sensors, the EV charging stations, this kind of the bundle of the product services should be supporting the this kind of mission. So this is one thing that I'm actually aiming at right now, to build up those kind of urban regeneration, at the same time to injecting the constant innovation ecosystem in the city. So most of the cases, there are a lot of bidding systems, procurement systems. It depends on the country. They do have their own thing. But by far, we have witnessed that the winners of the bidding, the bidder, kind of the bigger the corporate or the state-owned companies, they monopolized all this kind of projects. But something that we really require as one of the bundle of the services, they don't actually have the margin, and as a kind of profit model, they can actually keep it. So in Hanoi cases, we are actually separate between the bidders and open tech clusters. So based on my first experience in the smart city initiatives in London, which was called the Cognicity, the Cognitive Science and the City, which is actually Intelligent City in London, in Financial District in Canary Wharf. And we run the specific programs about the 6 different agenda. So about 1,000 companies applied for these programs. We nurture about 100 companies and through 6 months to 1 year, supported by the city government and also the other private sectors. And 36 companies actually become the winners of the whole fair competition. And these guys actually just entered into other markets, and also some of them, they become unicorns. So smart city is a kind of platform for the kind of the test bed for the innovative companies. They can actually change the cities, working together with the citizens. So that's my anticipations, and I believe that this kind of model can be the kind of promising point for the universal smart city initiatives in the future.
So you're taking that model from Canary Wharf and taking it into Hanoi, taking it into other locations where the more monopolistic type of structure might have existed in the past. You're believing that you can bring this model. Are you getting any challenges from the governments that you're working with, that their way of doing business is going to be the way that it needs to be done? Are you getting receptivity and people welcoming that way of doing business?
A lot of cases, I don't think the citizens in the city, they are not fully aware of what's going on there. For example, the Google Sidewalk Labs in Toronto. So there was a kind of deal between the city of Toronto and Google trying to just getting the big dockland in Toronto to build up some sort of a test bed, their own thing. So, but the thing is, there was a big concern and dispute over data. Who owns data? Who can use the data? Because there's a big concern for the city council, and Google wants to actually monopolize it. So there was no resolvement between these two. I don't think these sidewalk labs can be really successful in the meantime. So what I'm actually designing the smart city is a lot of participation. So we're just talking about inclusiveness from different the stakeholders of the city. For example, one of the city in South France, Nice, is, for example, the population is only 340,000 people living in there. But you can see that more than 50 million people visit Nice yearly basis. So you have to maybe approach who will be actually beneficial to using the smart city platform. It could be the residents, or maybe the non-residents, but actually frequent tourists or business people, because you have to think about how to make the city much more sustainable, resilient, and eco-friendly. And there are a lot of the missions they can think about, but most important thing about the financial support, of course. 95% around the world, city doesn't have enough money. They have very limited resources. So they need some sort of the supporters from the private sectors and public sectors, even the international organization. That's why they have to be really well designed master planner or their missions and KPIs in the future to attract more resources coming together. So I think that one smart city doesn't mean about entire city. Most of the metropolitan cities, they're actually talking about smart city, but due to the limited resources and not every city can actually start the smart city initiative entire city. I think probably they can start with one district by another districts. So which means it's still small market. Even a lot of companies coming and involving into to have an opportunity to grow there. But one district is not enough. So that's why we need to think about cross-validation among the smart cities. They can actually have something in common. So what I'm actually designing is one of the missions out of different pillars as an agenda in London and here in New York, or maybe on Hanoi, for example, because we actually suffer from the COVID-19 and the healthcare and the urban safety issues, and also the bringing the businesses back to the city. They are all common ground. So in that kind of regards, there might be some kind of collaborations between the cities and based on the innovation ecosystem.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I would love your insights as to how you feel that the smart cities implementation is impacted by the location, the demographics, just the culture potentially of a location.
Yeah, actually, well, so just like 20 minutes before this forum, I had a meeting with the UK's National Innovation Center called the Satellite Application Catapult. So they are very, very specialized in using big data from anywhere, from space even. Okay, so about this, and we are launching a space energy initiative, so making good use of the technologies to serve the community. And actually, what we discussed earlier is about how the UK as a satellite application catapult to support the smart city development in China. Okay, so I think we discussed about the market, the way of operation, development, how the government and the business work together, and I think the reason why the UK's National Innovation Center want to see the opportunities in China is because in China there is more freedom for technologies. So basically, so there is less regulations when we apply a new technology. Many new ideas can be easily implemented. And the market is huge, and many technology, after they get easily implemented, they easily get rewarded. And that's why in China, I can feel that I'm living in a smart city. So not in the UK, I feel it's still old-fashioned. So it's like 10 years ago when I came to UK, I think everything like similar. Though I'm aware of several smart city projects in the UK, I'm involved in some of them, but I don't feel too much difference after or before they are implemented. So that's why I think that because in UK, every project you want, especially you want to use technology, so there are many questions about so where the technology come from, what the technology will do, and how to ensure that the relevant stakeholders, they don't get into problems. So just like if I want to build an extension in my garden, I need to get approval from the council, from my neighbors, right? So but in China, if it's built in your own yard, your garden, so you don't need to get a permission. Yeah. So in many of the cases, yeah. But anyway, so that's why in China, smart cities, you know that China, they don't need to bring their wallet, they don't need to bring their bank card, they just use their mobile phones. They can do everything. That's very smart society. Singapore want to learn from China and many other countries. So I think, so this pro and cons. So of course we talk about how we make good use of the technology. So there is a recent news about that a Chinese technology company, they actually didn't really protect the many people's benefit or even data. Okay, so in this way, this is disclosed by the media. Okay, so basically, is as I said that if you have a technology, really China is a very good place to develop it, improve your technology. And for smart cities, there are real smart cities in China. Such as a supermarket without any person, right? So it's very popular in China. But I think gradually China may also learn from the UK about how to make the technologies that have only positive impact to the users. Okay, so this is, I think, the difference, the government regulation and how easy you apply the technologies.
Now that's a great segue, and I know we discussed this earlier, just in person. But what do you think? And I want to throw this to the whole panel. What do you think is the best technology adaptation that cities can make that is in the best interest of their citizens and visitors, that also supports privacy? And I know that's a combination, kind of a couple of things we've discussed, and there's a lot of aspects to privacy that I think are challenge points in different locations globally. And is there a current technology that you think is that best fit, that thing that can be brought forward to really improve the lives of the citizens and visitors, and also support privacy? That was a tough one.
I don't mind to go first on this one. Yeah, actually, this morning I kind of had a bit of was in another global event, and my industry is healthcare, and it was a great example this gentleman gave about the application of several emerging technologies. For example, in healthcare now is a big push for 5G, because 5G also enables other technologies, but also is a foundation for the developments and the deployments. And we're talking about cloud computing that can bring, for example, the data in a faster, more effective way, but also big data and AI and IoT and medical devices. And the combination of those will enable remote monitoring to happen. We know now that we're all working remotely. We're doing this remotely. Everybody's working from home. There's very less people in offices now, but also in healthcare, which is my primary industry. It's an example there that we can even perform operations from a distance with the use of emerging technologies. And this gentleman gave a perfect example with an operation board about 700 kilometers away. It was actually in China. That you can have all the information and access, and then with remote monitoring, and also your teams working, clinical teams and medical teams working in parallel. So I think it's really the combination of several available technologies. Some of them might be pillars, as I mentioned, 5G, for example. Some of them might slot in a nice way, but it's certainly available in the very mature way right here, right now.
We can tag into 5G again and a little bit as well. I know that's a hot topic.
I think here we can also, I completely agree with you, João. The combination of some of these factors are actually way, way more than just the sum of its parts. I want to throw one more technology in there, and that's blockchain, because we've talked about the data privacy and data transparency issues that a lot of the cities are. And using blockchain, a lot of the data ownership and the data proprietary data privacy can actually be democratized. That means it's not suddenly Google's data, it's not the city's data, it can be the data of the citizens who are participating in a larger platform that drives and powers their city. They can contribute directly and see their contributions and be rewarded for their contributions on, let's say, CO2 savings, energy savings, switching to more sustainable fuels. And bringing these technologies together, the data availability can be massively increased by having a private access, a secure and secure access that actually ensures the data privacy for citizens to share their data against an incentive. This is not a, I give it away and I will never see it again. There should be an incentive in some way for them to share the data. And this can be enabled using blockchain tokens and the data availability that can happen on a integrated city platform, which can leverage, as João also mentioned, AI and analytics technologies on this data, can then again predict patterns, can help us with behavioral patterns to even further increase these savings. Everybody could be participating, everybody would have the full transparency what is actually going on, and everybody would in the end be happy about energy savings or just better air quality right outside your own window.
I love it. Thank you, Oliver. People are going to think I paid you for that, considering that I led the Blockchain Chamber of Commerce for a number of years, and that is very much in alignment with what we know to be true, and is absolutely what I believe is one of those top ways to ensure privacy and allow data to be held by the people that create it. Thank you. Like I said, people might think I paid you for that, but no. Any other? I know that was a bit of a tough question, but great responses so far. I look forward to the rest of you weighing in on that.
So I fully agree with those two regarding the data analytics and big data, and also the blockchain, because all for example, I completed the basic master plan of Hanoi and Ukraine. Those are actually data and blockchain concept is actually embedded in the city. The thing is, the building is we also thinking about the more importance of what the data is POS and EOS and the SaaS and DOS. This kind of the demands in the future will be amazingly large. We can expect that. So lots of the data analytics firms and also the platform companies that can be involved in these initiatives. Building sensors and the capturing the data is definitely necessary in smart cities, but you have to think about make a balance between the data collection and privacy. We also witnessed that during the pandemic, some Asian countries the tracking the impacted people, or maybe some people actually tracking where they go and where they actually visit, and so this kind of the activities could be another challenge for the smart city, where the city should actually design the smart city regarding this kind of issues. This is a very hot topic worldwide now. So although smart cities is to make the life convenient and efficient by using the collecting data, the Personal Information Protection Act is the blocking it and making it controversial in many countries, including Europe and the United States in here. We also have the GDPR in Europe and CCPA here in California in the United States. But what is more important, creating smarter, safe, making city much more safer, and keeping personal data safe. These are the major issues and concerns we have to think about. After all, the question is whether the process of collecting data using data is fair and transparent. The issue becomes one of the education and transparency. As smart city residents, they have to know what data is being collected and how it's being monitored and how it's being used and to whom it's being sold and what will be done with in the future. So another concern is that the residents have the options of the opt-out of some elements of the data collection if they being de-identified. All of those questions will need to be answered, and clearly to solve the privacy concerns for smart cities.
Yeah. You do have insights you'd like to share?
Yeah, of course. So I'm always happy to hear our experts in the panel first and inspire me. Yeah. So I think I would think that communication technologies, so such as VR and 5G and blockchain is very important. So this will fundamentally change our life. The reason why this pandemic is less terrible than the previous one in history is because that we still get connected, we still can move things forward. And the future, we still want more communication technology to change our life, to improve our life, improve our work, improve the efficiency, and so the connectivity is very important. So we talk about the 5G and the satellite technologies. Of course, satellite, so this cannot cover everywhere. So 5G is connected from the ground. Of course, satellite cannot, so the signal cannot turn the point. Okay, so you may, so the satellite can be a supplement technology to the 5G, yeah, and also 6G. So I think, but anyway, so all this improve our communication can really help the development of the society. And even we talk about the blockchain, as you know, blockchain, we need more and more calculation, computing power, and a lot of storage, transmission. So we can only apply blockchain if we have a very good connectivity, communication technology. So I think I always think that yes, Zoom is good, and also this particular platform, I forgot this name, so very good, seems very good. Okay, or like Kim, so very good. But if we have another technology that we can see each other in the room, okay, so we still feel that we are one screen behind you. So there is screen behind between us. Okay, but if there is a technology that can enable us, we wear a glass, we see that you sit in front of me like a real person. Okay, that will further break down the barrier. Actually, the similar technology already being developed in Surrey University. So because of its leading position in 5G and VR. But anyway, so I think that there are many things to address. In my view, the communication technology would be very helpful for our work, for our life, for the economy. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's definitely been wonderful to have the technology that allows us to communicate and feel connected globally, even during this pandemic when there has been lockdown and travel has been very restricted. So thank you. And I'm going to approach the 5G question from a bit of a personal perspective, because I've been driving into Atlanta, which is just north of where I am. And as 5G has been implemented, I have had a personal experience with it that was a bit alarming. And driving into the city, I felt like my heart was grabbed, almost like if you have heartburn and that's that first like, pain. That's the feeling that I had. And I was like, what's that? And I looked up and I saw a 5G tower. And then it was just very brief. And then I felt it again. And I looked up and there was another 5G tower about the same distance away. And I hadn't, I mean, you can read stuff about 5G. There's all kinds of controversy around it, but I hadn't felt it. And feeling that impact just gave me a different concern to bring to you guys as to is technology implementation that could have negative effects on people's bodies be something that needs to be seriously considered and possibly real work done to make sure that we have the solutions to not have to take a negative impact with the positive outcome that we're looking for. That's not the way that you might have gotten that question from anybody else, but because I felt it like that, it's given me more concern and pause. And I hope there's already answers out there that can help solve for this. And you guys would be the ones to know about them if there are. So I look forward to your feedback.
Maybe I can add to the comments this time. Okay, first. So because when you ask this question, it's quite relevant to my recent conversation with the president of Huawei in the UK, so Mr. Jaewon. So I actually 3 days ago I had a dinner with him. So we, of course, so Huawei currently, because it have the best 5G technology, and I worked with Huawei. We co-set up a 5G center. And when we talk about the 5G and also talk about the issues, concerns caused by 5G, and so we discussed that during the pandemic, many people, they even think that 5G bring the coronavirus. Okay, so that's why in the UK there are more than 100 5G tower. So I'm glad, Linda, you mentioned about the 5G tower. You see them, yeah. So, but in the UK, so there are more than 100 5G towers that are burned down by people who feel that this can bring in coronavirus. Okay, so basically, I asked Huawei, okay, what's that? What do you feel sad about that? Okay, but Huawei said that no, why we feel sad? Because it's Vodafone or the operators, they feel sad because they need to buy from Huawei again, buy another 5G tower, Huawei is a manufacturer, yeah. So, but anyway, this means that if people, they are not guided about the technology, the advanced technology, many people in the world, there is no good communication way, and they may not have the knowledge. They will try to create some imagination that, for example, they think that there is a lot of radiation from the 5G tower, but actually, so from my knowledge of 5G, the radiation is like only 1/5 of the microwave in our home. So if we think that radiation is huge, so we should give up microwave, right? So basically, I just think, of course, advanced technology bring fears, but we also need to make the effort to let people understand and make better use of them. Yeah.
Nobody else wants to comment into this. I'm shocked.
Really shocked.
Linda, is actually the first, is a lot of controversy, as you mentioned, about conspiracy that 5G brings a lot of negative effects and brings corona and is detrimental to human health. And there are not actually any cases. I mean, there's a bit of a speculation around other themes too. He was actually the first person that I heard that felt something in some way, So, I mean, but also if we go back to wearables or even mobile phones, there are also studies that say that if you use your mobile phone for too long near your ear, that also is detrimental to your hearing and everything. So it's, I mean, I'm not defending the technology manufacturers, and I'm on a border side because I don't want to see any negative impact to humans' health, but it's like everything else. I have some LED lights in here, and they say if you use LED lights for over half an hour, they give you headaches and migraines. So it's a bit of like a broader line, certain things are bad for our health. Even wearables, there are not many studies, but there are cases that say the wearables are not completely safe, So where do we stand?
I personally was actually preparing for, bringing the public Wi-Fi systems rather than 5G. The 5G actually just gives lots of benefits in terms of speed and everything. Also, the autonomous vehicle systems and everything. You have to actually communicate with the device by devices. You need to actually back up by the kind of telecommunication infrastructures like 5G. Personally, I use the mobile phone like 5G. I never actually feel kind of much better speed. The comparing to the LTE before. But that's the personal thing. But I think that based on the conversations with the telecommunication companies, they're actually still progressing the much more the minimize the gaps at the moment. But I think that there will be much more time to, if we can experience what 5G can actually bring the benefits to our lives. And but eventually 5G can be, probably should be combined with a smart city in the end. But my design was, as I said, to connecting the satellites with the public Wi-Fi systems into the specific area, so that people can actually economically beneficial, not paying a lot of money using the 5G systems, because that 5G systems could be actually subsidized by the government, or maybe some sort of the consortium to support the innovation ecosystem. That's the thing that that's actually the major concern I had, and still I have it. So I can actually between 5G and the public Wi-Fi in Vietnam, for example, because Vietnam is not entering 5G yet. They're still actually staying with the LTE. And as I said, 95% of people are still using the, only 5% of the whole population, 100 million people in Vietnam, they use credit card. So majority group of people, they're using cash or the fintech, like the digital payment systems. But it will be actually really helpful to connect it with the 5G systems to make it much faster and much more beneficial to the residential lives in the future.
I mean, also chiming in here on the safety from a health perspective, the rollout of 5G is still in its, I want to say, early days, especially here also in Europe. We are working on it, and this rollout just only really gives us the chance to have a larger data collection, actually what the outcomes are. The lab results before something like that is rolled out has to be right. There has to be a certain level of security that this will not cause us to, I'm exaggerating now, drop that. If it's a new technology, we have to make sure that this doesn't happen. But the larger sample size that we just obtain now from reports from something that's happening can really enable us to really understand on the one side what is causing this, if there's a direct link, if there's an indirect link, something is happening, will help us to understand if this is the best technology to move forward, if we should move to something else. I'm also convinced that the upside that it's bringing is very, very important. This should not be taken into account, but if we're talking about the health of people, this has to be a very large weight attached to that parameter. And on COVID, well, 5G is definitely causing COVID. It's going to be hard to disprove unless you just think about it. But that's one of the funniest stories I've actually heard this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I am not a conspiracy theorist, and it was one of those, like, what is happening? My husband and kids were driving with me, and it's like not one to try to create a sensation, but it was impactful, and learning about the technologies that are available. I am a huge fan of emerging technologies. Love everything that can help make lives better, streamline things, create efficiencies, and absolutely want to see us have a connected world and, have problems, pain points that we have in cities across the world to have positive outcomes because of technology. And we have another, what I think is a very important issue that is also a little bit tough to discuss in the human trafficking that's being done globally. And, the more we have IoT devices, the more technology connectivity there is, the more surveillance there is in different cities, possibly the more likely we are to resolve some of that. I would love your guys' thoughts about how real problems like human trafficking can be better managed and dealt with using smart cities innovation?
Yeah, I think we should completely agree. Yeah, so I think we should embrace the innovation, embrace the emerging technologies, and make sure the technology for good, right? And make sure they serve the community, serve the people. And no matter what's conspiracy theory for 5G, for blockchain, for IoT, but if we think about in human history, even say every time we have a new technology, people they may have some different funny theories. For example, when we first invented the car, people will say, okay, many people will be killed by car. It's true, right? Before the invention of car, nobody killed by car, but now every year, maybe millions of people killed by car. So what we want to do is that we do not stop we use cars. This new technology is a tool. It's just a tool, serve the community. But we should ask people to learn driving license, go to attend the driving school, and also we should have a very good road, right? Should have device better and better cars. But we should really think that if we invent any technology, we have any technology, we should really know how to use it. Okay, so for example, I just give you another example, maybe not very, very appropriate. Even say nuclear bomb, that's very, very dangerous. But imagine after the invention of a nuclear bomb, there is no world war happen. Okay, because that when the major powers they get the technology, they can make good use of it and use it as not a weapon, but as something that to keep the world in peace, right? So basically, dangerous technology does not mean it cannot bring positive thing. And it's really dependent on the people who have this tool, who have the technology, how to use it, how to view it. And we should have common sense. We should agree with each other. We should have consensus with each other. And we should support each other, okay, and trust each other. Okay, that's my view.
And how does that positively potentially impact the human trafficking issue? Is there? Yes, I love the analogies that you just made there, and the question is how can we use it to help a specific subgroup of people who have been taken advantage of, not just in any specific country, but truly trafficking is happening around the world.
Any expertise from here?
Well, it's a very delicate issue, but my vision is that wearables can change the world. And yesterday I was at another global event, and we're talking about the Internet of Senses. Because now we are at different stages of development in terms of technology. Everybody talks about IoT, but we are progressing really, really fast. Not just about solving a particular issue in this case, which is a global problem, but we can use the Internet of Senses with VR, augmented reality, wearables to, for example, create digital experiences and broadcast as if we were, for example, an sports event and feel the same experience as if we are in a face-to-face conference and have a similar experience. I think these problems can be targeted in a similar way if we find a way to use the technologies to solve a problem. I mean, using a wearable, an IoT device, but it's also other issues that come associated with it: pricing, privacy, surveillance. There's a big controversy about the wearables because you don't want to be in a Big Brother in real life. So there are so many things to consider, but I think technology can fit really well around that.
Yeah, and I appreciate all of your guys' insights, and this has been a wonderful opportunity. I hope for the community to hear about some of the challenges and pain points and differences that we have around the world, and the talents that you gentlemen have and what you've been doing to bring smart city technology, wearable technology forward is commendable, much appreciated, and I appreciate the opportunity that we've had to spend this time together. Obviously, there's a lot of work still to be done, and the beauty about emerging technology is it continues to emerge. And so hopefully as these concerns and questions go forward, people will be working to solve for those specific problems, and we'll be getting technology and innovation that is truly going to take the cities that we currently have and the cities that we're building and make them better places for the people who inhabit them and visit them. So thank you all for your time today, and look forward to the rest of the event.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
So.